ghost town Kurchatov. For 40 years, the headquarters of scientists who used the Semi region as a laboratory for nuclear war. 20 years after the last nuclear test, the Soviets have left, but a short way across the steppe, their legacy remains. The highly contaminated experimental testing site known as the Polygon. 60 years ago, right here, the Soviet Union began the first of more than 100 above-ground nuclear explosions. The resulting contamination over the years impacted an area of 300,000 square kilometres, home to 1.5 million people. Winds carried successive clouds of radioactive dust way beyond the test site to villages and towns in the wider area. Ludmila Shakhvorostova is from Dolon, one of the worst affected villages. Born in the 1950s, her two sons have the mental age of 3-year-olds.
They need lots of help. I have to shave them, to wash them. They can't serve themselves when I cook something. My deepest sorrow is what will happen to them when I'm gone.
These days, the radiation continues to have a secondary delayed influence on the population. Cancer rates are 1.5 times higher than the rest of the country, and the region has high levels of early mortality from a range of common diseases. There are just under 500,000 recognised polygon sufferers in Kazakhstan who are eligible for limited government benefits. Lazat Beg says his ill health is down to the polygon, but like most people, he's not an officially acknowledged sufferer. Dr. Galich, who sits on the government decision-making panel, says many people from Semey are psychological victims.
For 40 years, people had been living next to the polygon, knowing about it, but no one ever explained to them about what was going on and how they can protect themselves from it. So all of a sudden, it was like a lightning strike on their psyche.
State scientists who monitor radiation levels back at the polygon say today's dangers are exaggerated.
I think the reason is pollution from factories, cars and such things. Out of the total dose of radiation received by people in the region, the proportion that comes from the polygon is very low.
But try telling that to Myra and her polygon status daughter, 18-year-old Janor, who has microencephalus. And yet, at the Semi School for Disability, only around 10% of the children have certificates that connect their conditions to radiation. It's difficult to demonstrate the links. That's why doctors say more research is urgently needed to understand how the nuclear tests of yesterday could harm the children of tomorrow. Robin Forestier-Walker for Al Jazeera, Semey, East Kazakhstan.
Someone who's been there is Dr. Rebecca Johnson, Director of the Acronym Institute for Disarmament Diplomacy, and has conducted research in the Semi region. When you went there, what were your first impressions?
Well, I first went to the Semipalatinsk region actually back in 1990 as a guest of the Nevada Semipalatinsk movement, which had been formed in order to protest against the Soviet tests. The Soviet tests at that time were still continuing. And indeed, I went to the villages around the test site and saw those tragic faces of people who had birth defects, talked to women who had had miscarriage after miscarriage of babies that were just formed of jelly, and you know, the horrors of that. And indeed worked to bring about an end to nuclear testing, not only in Kazakhstan, but around the world. Then last year, I was back in Semipalatinsk, and this time I actually went on to the test site as part of an on-site inspections exercise being conducted by the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organization. And I heard your specialists say that the radiation fears are exaggerated. I'm sorry, that's not true. We were required to dress up in full radiation suits with overshoes and masks and gloves at all times when we went out onto that test site.
Let me ask you
now,
a
people
question
living
about
in the villages
why.
don't have that
Why
protection.
the place? Why did the Soviet Union, the rulers, choose this part of Kazakhstan? There are people living there. Was it because they felt that these people mattered less than those where they carried out the other tests? Because, I mean, 425 out of 700 is a huge proportion.
It is. I mean, very sadly, I think that if you look at the history of nuclear testing, Britain, France and the United States did a lot of their testing in the Pacific because they considered it to be less populated and certainly a long way away from their capitals and their centres. The United States did a lot of testing in Nevada, but that was chiefly underground testing. And the Soviet Union, as your map showed, did most of its testing in the Semipalatinsk region, which was wide steppes. But one of the things that I saw when I actually went there was that this was an area, I saw lots of relics, crumbling stone remains of villages. There had been villages there that were cleared out. There were still villages nearby that took the toll of that testing into the bodies of their children, into their own genes. They were not properly protected. So the nuclear testing countries, the policies were decided in the capitals, but the impact and of the nuclear testing was conducted on people a long way away from those capitals in the Pacific, in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, it is independent now. The Soviet Union does not exist. Do the Russian leaders, Medvedev, Putin, do they accept responsibility for what has happened down there, or are they just leaving it to the Kazakh government?
I think in many ways they do accept responsibility. Russia has ratified the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. You know, the states came together in the 1990s and negotiated and concluded a multilateral treaty to ban and prohibit all nuclear testing altogether. And all the nuclear weapon states joined together to sign that treaty in 1996. 181 countries around the world have signed that treaty, and indeed 149 of them have ratified, including Britain, France and Russia, but not yet, I'm sorry to say, the United States and China. Now, when I was over there last year, something that I found very interesting was that Kazakh specialists and Russian experts were working together to help the organization for this test ban treaty to train its people in on-site inspections to verify the treaty. They were working together to enable us to go out and do this exercise to make sure that we were protected. And I was very struck by what one Russian scientist on that occasion said to me. He said, you know, most of my career I came to Semipalatinsk to conduct nuclear testing because I thought we needed nuclear weapons for peace. He said, I'm now proud to be out here helping to verify the nuclear test ban because I understand that we don't need nuclear tests and we don't need nuclear weapons. We're better off, we'll have better peace without them.
Fantastic to get your view, first-hand account of what goes on in that region of Kazakhstan. Dr. Johnson, thank you.